Hey everyone, Sweet Johnny Cage here, and I'm here with a hardware review, which is rare for me, but it's for the RetroTINK 2X Pro. The RetroTINK 2X Pro is a signal converter that converts component, and composite. So component is the green, blue, red, and then composite is your old school yellow, white, and red cables. Converts that along with S-Video into HDMI. And it does this in a lagless, very clear quality. I'm using this for a very specific project. I'm going to be putting together over the course of this year, probably release it sometime in October for like Halloween, doing a really big Castlevania Symphony of the Night project. And I want to give a huge shout out to a local store here in the New York City area, Video Games New York. VGNY is a brick and mortar game store, privately owned. It is located in the Village in Manhattan, near St. Mark's and NYU. Really, really amazing store. They sell everything from Atari to PlayStation 5. It's literally everything. Rare stuff, limited stuff, Japanese stuff, European stuff, anything you could think of, the store probably has. I had reached out to them because I've shopped with them for years, and I know that they sell a lot of things like this, as well as import systems and old school stuff. And I reached out to them saying, hey, I have this project in mind for Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but I need hardware. You know, I don't have a Sega Saturn. I definitely don't have the original version of the game. I don't have anything to convert the signal to HDMI. What do you suggest, and can I rent it? And the first thing they suggested was this, the RetroTINK 2X. So the RetroTINK 2X Pro. So first, thank you so much to Video Games New York for renting me all this equipment. Sadly, I have to return it tomorrow, but I am buying this for myself. That's how much I vouch for this thing. I'm about to spend $130 on something that I've used for like 2 weeks. It's so good. And we'll get into it in a bit. So to give you just a sort of overview on what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to explain the features of this little box here, and then we are going to showcase it using an import Sega Saturn. This is a limited brown edition. Just kidding. It was white at one point, but the plastic on these things degrades over time, so they turn a little yellow. If you had a Super Nintendo back in the day, you probably know what I'm talking about. But we're using an import Sega Saturn, as well as an original copy of Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the Sega Saturn. So this is like an official copy, not a burned backup or anything, although I'm not against using stuff like that, you know, when times get tough, but luckily, VGNY had a copy of it, so we'll be using this to demonstrate everything. One other thing that I want to mention about VGNY being so great is they originally gave me this Saturn, which unfortunately had a bad laser, and it's always a little hard to detect these things because it could work 1 minute, then not work the next, but I brought this home from the store, and I couldn't get the game to boot reliably, and when it did, it would just cut out to a black screen and fail. But this is a Model 1 Sega Saturn. I did want to show it. They let me keep it for a little bit, you know, for the duration of the rental, just to sort of show it for photo purposes. This is a Model 1 Saturn. It's sort of like a gray-green color. This is import as well. And, yeah, interesting system. Unfortunately, the laser went bad, but luckily they had the other one, you know, in storage, ready to go. Okay, so getting into the RetroTINK, let's go over the features. So, like I mentioned in the very beginning, it has a component input array, as well as white and red for audio. And then if you're using, you know, your sort of old school yellow video cable, this thing, sorry, I have wires down here. If you're using a composite cable, that's okay. It supports it as well. And so you just plug it into the green port, and then you'll get full color picture. So that green port is sort of double wired for composite and component. So it has component composite, and then it has S-Video on the side, and it outputs it into HDMI. It does require a micro USB power supply. You can find a micro USB cable at like a gas station. They're proliferated around the world. It does not come with it though. In addition to that USB cable, you will need a way to power it, of course. So by either using like an actual wall socket, you know, USB converter, or plugging it into a computer, you need something that provides at least 500 milliamps of power. I use the one that came with my SNES Classic. I had it here on my desk. I just popped out the cable and popped it into this, and it worked just fine. So it's not hard to find a power supply for that, but it does not come with it. one of the things that I want to mention, and they actually mention this on the website for RetroTINK. I'm just going to read the caution here. 2 big notes. Sega Genesis and PS1 composite video generates off-spec signals and may not work correctly. For Sega Genesis, we recommend the HD RetroVision cables, and then for PS1, we recommend a PS2 with good quality component cables. A little side note on that, I have a PlayStation 1, and I can confirm it works just fine. That said, there are certain models of the PlayStation 1 that will not work, and the output of the video signal will just be black and white, so that's why they recommend using a PlayStation 2. Every revision of the PS2 will work, and it has PS1 hardware in it, so it's not like you're emulating or anything. So that's what they want you to do for that. For Sega Genesis, those HD RetroVision cables are really high-grade cables. They're still made today, so it's not like an old thing out of a dusty bin. It's a brand new set of cables, and they're really high quality, so that's why they recommend that. The second warning they give, we do not recommend the use of Elgato capture cards with our products and cannot provide technical support for Elgato equipment. I don't use Elgato products. I have one on my computer. It's not hooked up. I can't test with it right now. I use AverMedia products. I'm not shilling for either one of them. It's just who I choose to use. And I will tell you that my main capture card is an AverMedia Live Gamer 4K, which I think is the GC573, and that works perfectly with the RetroTINK. However, I also use a Live Gamer Ultra for streaming. The 4K is really just for capture. I don't stream off that. But I use a Live Gamer Ultra for streaming, and there's a lot of screen jitter, or picture jitter, or screen shake when using the Live Gamer Ultra. So it's unclear if it's just like some capture cards. Unfortunately, I don't have a ton to test with. I just have my 2 AverMedia cards hooked up, so I'm unable to really give you a solid recommendation on what capture card to use, other than saying the Live Gamer 4K works just fine. It is the most expensive card that AverMedia offers, though. Sorry. Okay, so with those warnings out of the way, let's get into the box. So very small, very light, component composite S-Video, and then on the top we have our power and HDMI, and then we have 2 buttons here. This one is for input, so this just cycles it between composite, component, and S-Video, and then this one is filter. There are several filters offered on the RetroTINK, and these are actual video filters, which I will show for you once we get into the gameplay section. It has a scanline filter, a no filter mode, and then a smoothing filter mode. I don't recommend using scanline filter on a monitor, unless if you're playing on a CRT, it probably looks just fine. I don't have a CRT to use, and I don't know why you would need this with a CRT. I mean, just use the CRT instead of this, but scanline doesn't look great, but it could just be a Sega Saturn issue and really nothing else. It also has 2 filters for component usage, which is a non-filter and then a smoothing filter. It does not have the scanline filter for component. So that's that. And then there are a couple of switches on the side here. This one is for comb, and this one is for mode. And I'm just going to straight up read the instructions for what comb and mode are, because I don't fully understand it, but maybe you will. The comb switch controls how the video decoder performs chroma/luma separation for composite video sources. For retro consoles such as the NES that use off-spec encoding and contain sharp edges, it is recommended that the switch be left in the retro position. This forces a notch-based filter that minimizes ringing and other artifacts. The notch filter has lower horizontal resolution, but is free from vertical comb filters, distortions, and emulates an older color CRT. For cleaner video sources, such as Laserdisc and newer generation consoles, the auto position allows the video decoder to analyze the video signal and automatically adjust the comb/notch filtering and bandwidth settings. So I will show you the differences between the two, but I typically just have it on retro using a Saturn, and I think it looks really good. It's definitely sort of a whatever you feel like sort of setting. It's not going to prevent you from using anything. Let's talk about mode now. The mode switch allows the line doubler to be turned on or off. For normal gaming on 240p/288p sources, this should be set to line 2x to output 480p/576p. Setting the mode switch to pass turns off the line doubler, and the device simply digitizes the video signal to the digital video output, but preserves the original timing. Pass-through mode may be useful for video capture software so that more advanced deinterlacing techniques can be applied later in software. Pass-through mode may also be useful for 480i games, especially if latency is not important in the gameplay, since the TV can apply more advanced deinterlacing to the video signal. Gonna be totally honest with you, I'm not one of these like hardcore retro dudes who needs a SCART setup in order to be satisfied. That stuff is just like way above my pay grade. So I'm not the best at deciphering what all this means. I will tell you though, using a Sega Saturn, I have it set to retro and line doubler is on, line 2X. So that's the way I like to play. I think the color and the picture just looks the best. And again, there's no lag in really any of these modes. So really up to you, whatever you want to do. Yeah, so that's basically all the features of the box. And I think now it's time to hook it up and use it. One quick thing before I actually turn everything on, I'll show you what it looks like hooked up. So it's hard to see this light here, but this is yellow, and that indicates that we are pulling from the composite section, or composite signal. If we press input, it changes to green, and that means it's looking for a signal on component, but it'll flash red if you wait too long, because it's not going to find anything. And then finally, white indicates that it's looking for an S-video signal, but again, flashing red because it doesn't find it. But we'll go over to yellow for composite, and then we'll start. All right, so one thing to note and to keep in mind when using this device is you need to be kind of aware that you will see these no signal screens, especially if you're using a capture card. If you're not using a capture card, chances are you'll just see a black screen, or your television may try to change the input to a different input. Luckily, that is not happening here, but the reason this happens, or the reason the no signal screen comes up, is because HDMI will constantly look for a signal. And if it goes too long without a signal, really just a few seconds, it'll start searching again, and so you get that no signal screen. It doesn't mean that there's a problem with the RetroTINK or even your hardware. It's just the way HDMI works. Okay, so this is the title screen for Symphony of the Night on Saturn. You press start, and then interestingly, Symphony of the Night on Saturn has a sound test unlocked right at the start. So we could play one of the songs here, and Bloody Tears appears in this game. It doesn't appear in the PS1 version, though. I'll make it a little bit louder for you. There you go. So Symphony of the Night on Saturn is great. Highly, highly recommend. But let's go ahead and exit that, and then we'll actually go into the game, and I'll show you what things look like, and then we'll go through the filters. One thing before we do that, actually, now that I remember, is I'm going to change my capture card to the Live Gamer Ultra, just so you can see what I'm talking about with that sort of massive screen jitter. So we're changing it now. See, I don't know why that happens. It's constantly shaking. It seems like a Live Gamer Ultra problem. Really unsure. I wish I had a better answer for you, but it happens every single time. And it also happens when I hook up a PlayStation. So it doesn't appear to be a console issue. It appears to be a RetroTINK issue. But that could be that warning that they gave about Elgato cards. Maybe they didn't also test AverMedia. Unsure. But we will go back to the Live Gamer 4K, and we get a steady image. So all good. All right. So I have a Alucard save, a Maria save, and a Richter save. But we'll go ahead and pick up Alucard since that's what everybody remembers. Symphony of the Night, it's so hard to say, Symphony of the Night on Saturn is a slow game. It's very slow. It introduces a lot of loading screens that the PlayStation version did not have. The picture looks a little fuzzy. It's just the way the game is. It's not necessarily the RetroTINK, but this is the only Saturn game that I have. Okay, so let's go somewhere a bit more colorful. And let's go into the Marble Gallery here. And then a little Easter egg, the Saturn version of Symphony of the Night has an infinite wing crush, so you can literally go from room to room to room in wing crush without ever stopping. You can only stop when your MP runs out or you hit a wall, which will be right now. So, in this room, I will show you some things. So, the Sega Saturn version of the game has transparency problems. The Saturn has transparency problems itself. So, a lot of things that would be transparent or translucent in the PlayStation version, unfortunately, have either an issue or they're just fully changed in the Saturn version. The crystal green being one of them. So one other thing to note is that, there's many things to note, I guess, but I'm going to pause the game to go to the menu, and you're going to notice that I get a no input signal, which should happen right now. There you go. So this does not mean that the game is breaking. It's just that the resolution is different in menus than it is in game. And this will happen in a lot of games. So it's not that anything's breaking. It's just the way that it is with the RetroTINK. I don't even take points off of this. I'm just letting you know if you buy this, that's why it's happening. I have no issue with this myself. I understand that's just the way HDMI works. But even going into subsequent menus, it does the same thing. So with Symphony of the Night's load times incorporated with this no signal screen, it can be a little frustrating to play games sometimes. But again, that's a Symphony of the Night complaint. That is not a RetroTINK complaint. Just wanted to show it to you. And of course, going back out of the menus, it does the same thing. And also, the really strange thing about Symphony of the Night in the Saturn version is that the map is in the menu. I'm not sure if that's a transparency problem or if that's just a bizarre choice, maybe a memory issue, but you have to pause the game, wait for the load screen, and then press the L button, and then wait again, and then the map will load. I don't know why that happens, but that's the way the game is on Saturn. Anyway, let's go ahead and showcase the RetroTINK filters now. So we'll go back to game, wait for it to load, and then I will go ahead and change the filter switch. Okay, so this is the default, basically no filter. And so the next one is going to be smoothing. What I recommend doing is looking at Alucard's hair. Notice how there's black lines in it? Now that we're in smoothing, those lines sort of go away. So it smooths out the pixels. This makes animations look a little bit better, but I really prefer that blocky sort of pixelated texture. I find that to be the artist's intent, really. So I never really play with smoothing. It's totally up to you, though. This is scan line, like I said. This is really dark. Maybe you want to use this with like an overbright setting on a monitor or something, but I don't like playing with this. I much prefer just the regular. So those are the filters. And again, you will have a no filter and then a smoothing filter when playing with Component. Okay, so let's go ahead and change the comb setting. So right now we are on, where are we on? We are on retro. Let's go to automatic. So we do have to wait for the signal to refresh. There you go. A little bit brighter. Things look a little bit clearer, but I think the colors are not necessarily washed out, but I don't like how bright everything is with this mode. So that's why I much prefer retro. There you go. Okay, so then finally let's go to the mode setting. Right now the line doubler is turned on, but we can turn it off with the flip of the switch. All right, so not much difference. It's hard to tell on this monitor, but you know that is the line doubler changing. So let's turn it back on. And there you go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change over to my PlayStation 1. I do want to warn you that my right audio channel on my cable, so the red wire, is broken. So you may not hear any right channel audio. That's my problem. That is not an issue with the RetroTINK. It's just I have an old PlayStation, so that's the way it is, unfortunately. But I do want to show this to you just so you can see that some models of PlayStation do work. So let's change over there. Yeah, so I only have left channel audio, no right channel, sadly. But that again, that's my issue. That's not an issue with the RetroTINK. That's totally on me. As you saw there, we didn't get to see the full boot up screen because the HDMI was looking for a signal while the signal was going on. So it's kind of a drawback to these things is you don't get to see sort of the full video. It sort of gets cut short in the beginning a little bit, but that's okay. It really never happens during gameplay unless the game you're playing has different resolution menus. I'm just going to press start here to skip the fanfare, but this is Final Fantasy VII, the original. I just ordered a copy of Symphony of the Night, Japanese, so that should be coming in a few weeks. Yeah, you can see, I mean, this is, again, on the RetroTINK, and it works just fine on my PlayStation, but this is a late revision PlayStation 1, so that could be why. I did see on various forums that folks complained of only having black and white, but some people did say, like, just change the input a few times and that'll work. It'll eventually kick into color, but I did not have that luck. But Final Fantasy VII does not have menus in different resolutions, so no issues here. This is a really late game save. Let me show off my materia collection really fast. So this is a manually grinded file. I did this many, many years ago. Not in 1997. I didn't play this game until 98, actually. Yeah, so I grinded this a lot. This was before I went to college. But anyway, let's get into a battle, just so you can sort of see things. If this is anything like the last time I recorded this, it might be a back attack sort of battle. This is disc 3, so hence the eerie music. I'm not sure if you can actually hear it. I had the input a little low. There you go. Full battle. And it is not back attack. Right, so Sid has flash, death, instant win. There you go. So yeah, you can see, I mean, this is no filter or anything on the menu. Let's turn on smoothing really quick. Not much change on the menu. And of course, scan line makes it pretty dark. Let's change the filter on the world map. That's smoothing. Again, not too much change. That's back to normal. Let's go into another battle really fast and check the filters. I haven't actually done this, so this is probably going to be our best test of how this will look. So this is no filter here. I'm going to wait till we actually get into the battle before we change anything. Alright, so let's go to smooth. Really no change. Scan line, no filter. Yeah, really no change between smooth and no filter here. Alright, so I think Cloud was trying to mimic everything, but not working. But that's it. It's Final Fantasy VII on a PS1. As you can see, it works just fine for me, but not all revisions of PlayStation 1s will work as well as this just did. So keep that in mind when you buy. Make sure your hardware is compatible, or just get a PS2, and it'll be fine. But I needed a PS1 that I could play import games on, so that's why I'm using this. All right, so that's it for the RetroTINK. Let me just go ahead and unplug it this way I could show it to you again. That's it for the RetroTINK 2X-Pro. Highly, highly recommended. This serves my purpose beautifully. I could not have asked for an easier solution. Another really big thank you to Video Games New York. If you are ever in the New York City metro area, please stop by and support this store. It's one of the few brick and mortar game stores left, even in New York City. We don't have many left. And they have everything under the sun you can ever imagine. I think they even have a partnership with Limited Run Games, so they will always get physical versions of those games in store, and they still have a lot of them. Please stop by, and again, thanks VGNY for renting me all this equipment and selling me this, because I am buying this when I return everything tomorrow. But that's it. That's really all on the RetroTINK. If you have any questions about this, or using it with any sort of these setups, Sega Saturn, PlayStation, whatever you like, please leave a comment and I'll do my best to help you out. If you want to see more videos where I feature the RetroTINK or my future Symphony of the Night projects, please subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when new videos go live. If you're interested in supporting the channel monetarily, please consider becoming a channel member by clicking the blue join button below this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and on Twitch, and as always, I'm Sweet Johnny Cage. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.